In our previous session, we saw how excess reserves were increased when demand deposits were made in the banking system. There is another way, though, that money is created, and that is through the buying and selling of government securities, government bonds, and this is known as open market operations because the buying and selling is done on the open market. It involves the central bank, in this case the Federal Reserve, and banks will purchase these bonds as a way to increase revenues. Now let's take a look at a T account that shows government bonds as one of the options being held by a bank. Now, if we look at a T account that shows before the Fed's purchase from the bank, in this example we have demand deposits of $50,000. We see that we have reserves of $5,000, loans of $30,000, and bonds of $15,000. Now, my question to you is, what's our reserve requirement if this bank is fully loaned out? We can see that on a $50,000 demand deposit, $5,000 in reserves means that the reserve requirement must be 10%. All right, so this bank has loans, it has bonds, as well as the demand deposits that are considered liabilities. Remember, we said that that is what is owed by a bank. Now, let's say that the Federal Reserve is interested in increasing the money supply. It will purchase bonds on the open market. And in this case, this bank decides that it will sell its bond to the Fed. That means that the Federal Reserve is buying this bank's bond. It is a purchase. All right, let's see what will happen to a T account once the purchase is made. After the purchase by the central bank from this bank, we can see that instead of our bank having a bond, it now shows $15,000 in excess reserves. So instead of being a bond, it's now gone into excess. Have our required reserves changed from the previous screen? No, because our demand deposits did not change. The only change was the sale of when the Federal Reserve purchased the bond that increased the reserves for the bank, and it now has excess reserves of $15,000. Now we are in a situation as we were in the previous video. Now the bank has $15,000 in excess reserves that it can make available for loans. We are interested, though, to see what is going to be the change in the money supply. This $15,000 is now available to be made into loans, and they become future demand deposits. What we will see is a change that is a multiplied change. Remember, as we said before, our formula for our multiplier is 1 over the reserve requirement, and in this case it would be 1 over 1/10 or 10. Our multiplier is 10 times the $15,000 excess reserves, equaling $150,000 will have been created.